All right, everybody, we are back with another episode of Wealth with the Culture. It is your host, Ollie Brady. This week, I have a lawyer coming through, man. Gonna drop a lot of game. He's known as the entrepreneur lawyer, actually. I met this brother a few weeks ago at a networking event. We always talk about getting in the room, man. And I told myself and I told everybody listening, I'm going to start working to do that. And got in the room, met a lot of people. And this brother right here was one of the people I met. Chopped it up for a minute. Next thing you know, just things like this happen. That's why I tell people, get in the room, man. Make connection with people. It ain't got to be forced. Just whatever happened, man. But the worst thing you can do is just not even be there because then you don't even have the opportunity. So first off, my brother, Mr. Soluto Uba, how are you doing, my brother?
I'm doing well, man. You know, it's busy, but it's a good type of busy. So just making a lot of things happen and just continue to work hard and build up the business, build up the brand, all that good stuff.
Okay, now I ain't gonna lie to you, Brand. I got a lot of questions because
for sure.
I'm in the part I know you deal with a lot of people forming businesses, helping them get started, turning the entrepreneurs into the full-time CEOs. And, I tell people it's a difference between being self-employed, just working for yourself, doing your own thing, and then when you take that transition, which is what I'm trying to do, and go like the business owner and start start actually managing a business. It's a big shift. So glad to have you on, my brother. Haven't had a lawyer on. Actually, I only had one lawyer on. There was an estate planning attorney. So this should be pretty dope. For the main thing though, for anybody that does not know who you are, my brother, can you please just kind of break down your background a little bit for everybody so you can get a feel for who you are?
Yes, sir. So first of all, thank you all so much for tuning in to the platform, tuning into the podcast, supporting. My name is Soluto Uba, and I am the entrepreneur lawyer as well as the founder of the Uba Law Group. We're a we're a law firm that focuses on business and intellectual property and tax strategies so you can protect the business, protect the bag, and protect the brand. And so my personal story is, I'm just a kid from Houston, Texas. First generation Nigerian. My parents came here back in the day, but born and raised in Houston. Did the regular school thing, went to University of Texas for college, but always knew I wanted to be a lawyer from the jump. Did my first year of law school at Howard, finished up here back in Dallas because I knew I wanted to live and work in Texas. And then, I just did the law firm thing. And, I was living the dream, so to speak. But one of the craziest things that happened was like around year 4 or 5, like myself and a whole bunch of my friends, like we all just sort of organically started having the same conversation. Like, this lawyer thing is cool or whatever, but I don't know if I can see myself in somebody else's office for the next 20, 30, 40, whatever many years, working from 9 to 10, building somebody else's empire. And so, like, I remember I was thinking that, and we were at like a happy hour or something, and I just asked my buddy, I was like, you ever think about? And he was like, yeah, man, I think about it all the time now. And so, that entrepreneurial bug, that thing in my gut, it was always there. But at that point, the seed started getting planted in my head, and so what brought it to the forefront. Is my wife and I, we were pregnant with our first son. Mainly my wife was pregnant. But at that point, you have all these ideas, but we talk about generational wealth, we talk about legacy, we talk about all this stuff. But at that point, when we were pregnant, like I just started seeing the next 5, 10, 20 years, like all of it became real right now. And so I remember I was telling the people around me, like, if I don't leave now, I'm going to be trapped in my job, because all of us, not all of us, but a lot of us have the entrepreneurial spirit. But, at the end of the day, you got responsibilities, you got to pay bills, you got family, you got kids, you got whatever. And so, it's easier when it's just you and you're just grinding and like you can live below your means for a little while. You can hustle, you can grind, you can pound dirt and make it happen. But when you start to have responsibilities, all these things, it starts to make it harder, not impossible, but harder to push out and be an entrepreneur. So when we had our first son on the way, I was like, okay, we gotta do this now. So I resigned from my law firm. Everything was good with them. I just resigned, and I launched my real estate business. I'm an entrepreneur in real life. So I have a few businesses. Author, wrote a book with my wife, and do a few things. So the first thing I jumped into was real estate. Because at that time, pretty much like everybody, every other entrepreneur. I went through the initiation, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Millionaire Next Door, all those books that we all read. And so I jumped into real estate, and I thought I was done with the law. Like, I thought that was it. Hey, this is a good phase of my life, and let me just do this real estate thing, this entrepreneurial thing, and grow the business. And so I started out doing wholesale and real estate for about 3 or so years, and it took me a little while to get my feet under me. And that's another part of business and life, and that's why I call myself the entrepreneur lawyer, because it's not just the law stuff. Like, I'm an entrepreneur in real life. I know what it's like. For the real estate investors, I know what it's like to put your heart and soul into a fix and flip, and you think you got everything perfect, but you were wrong about the market, and you made a fix and flip project in a whole rental subdivision and neighborhood, and nobody's purchasing properties at top dollar. So you got to lose $20K on the deal that took you 4 months, 5 months. I know what that's like. I know how to advise about that. So that was part of my journey into real estate. And so I thought I was done with the law, but once you're a lawyer, once people know that you're the lawyer, every law question people have, they ask you about it. And so I wasn't interested in none of that. But the only thing that caught my butt, the only little bug that kept on pulling at me was entrepreneurship, business formation, things like that. And so after a while, I was forming businesses for people here and there, and it kept on happening so much. I was like, I just need to go ahead and formalize this thing and launch like a law firm focused on entrepreneurs. So the Uba Law Group is the formal name of the law firm. The Uba Law Group was formed, and I started to brand myself an entrepreneur lawyer. So from there, it's been really dope because, I serve entrepreneurs in a whole bunch of different markets. I got my real estate investor background, so I know how to serve them, but I have clients that are, doctors, chiropractors, dentists, optometrists, designers, creatives, photographers, event venue planners and coordinators, all sorts of stuff. Because regardless of what you're doing in business, the foundation is the same. And once I started working with so many business owners, I started to notice there are a lot of key similarities, both from like mindset, but then also, we go to school and like we learn our individual skill set, but a lot of us don't know the fundamentals of business. And then when it comes to the law, a lot of us don't know the fundamentals of keeping your business legal and keeping it up and making sure that you're actually going to be protected. So one of the biggest things I started to see was, there's a good amount of people that are sole proprietors, a good amount of people that are LLCs. So kind of like what we were saying is, working with so many different entrepreneurs in all sorts of different industries, all of the industries, they have their unique situations, but from a business standpoint and like the legal standpoint, I keep on seeing all these different entrepreneurs and business owners making the same types of mistakes that are really costly when it comes to the business setup side. So like, for instance, about half the people I run into, they're sole proprietors, or some of them have figured out, hey, I need to go ahead and make my LLC. But a lot of people have what I call a paper LLC. Now, for those who don't know, an LLC is a limited liability company. It's a type of business entity that puts a wall of protection between you and the business. So if something goes down with the business and somebody takes legal action, or if there's some sort of debt or liability, that's only on the business, and people can't come after your personal assets. So that's the basic game plan. And a lot of people know about the basic game plan, but what people don't understand is you can't just go to the Secretary of State and, click on the website and file for that piece of paper and think that your business is going to get protected. So that's what I call a paper LLC. That, that's the first step, but that alone will not protect your business. If somebody sues you and y'all go to court and you show up in court and all you guys, that little piece of paper from the Secretary of State, and you think that's going to protect you, the judge is going to have they're going to have a whole different story for you. So what I tell my clients is you don't need a paper LLC, you need a performing LLC to actually protect your business. And there are a whole bunch of different components that go into that. And so, the reason I get so passionate about it is, especially coming from the real estate side, like real estate investors are hustlers, are grinders. They learn the craft, they learn how to make money. And once you start to go, you're making some good money. Yeah. But I see people doing regular, fix and flip wholesale deals, making a good 20, 30, 40K a month. And then I look at their business structure. I'm like, bro, you just need the wrong thing to happen. You need the wrong thing to happen at closing. You need a contractor or something that's uninsured to slip and fall and come after your business. And that's a wrap. So it's so important that as we're building these empires, as we're building the success, as we're creating our company and our legacy, we got to make sure that it's protected legally. And a lot of people were kind of lacking on that front.
All right. Hey, a few gems dropped in there, especially that whole paper LLC versus performance. That's where I'm transitioning to right now. Like, I started my LLC, and that was just so I could force myself to get going, really.
Sure.
And now I'm working on, getting the business bank account, stuff like that in order, and getting like funds and stuff like set up. Like, and maybe you could probably talk better about this because what I see, because I deal with like a lot of people I deal with, either, because stock investors, crypto people, or real estate people.
Yep.
So what I tend to see a lot is they mix the personal, personal spending and then the business. Like, they don't keep it separate, which even I'm guilty of. But like how people have told me to do it, I guess, is if you are like, I don't use my business stuff per se to like buy stuff for myself personally. But what I will do is give my business money from myself. So I like that. And I mean, most people I've talked to said they just consider it like a loan. So if you can kind of break down your thoughts on that, because that's something I see a lot.
And you broke down a lot of important parts. That first stuff that you're talking about, where you're using the business funds for personal stuff, there's a term for that. That's called commingling funds. And like that's the biggest red flag if you want to lose your business protection. But to be real, during the life of every entrepreneur, when we'll come up, you get stuff set up, that happens to some extent. And so it's not the end of the world, but what I tell everybody is, hey, you want to establish the business over here and yourself over here. And, if something happens by mistake, like I've been at the store, you're at the store, you're at the grocery store, you swipe the wrong card, you use the business card instead of it. That's no big deal. You can shoot yourself an email, document it. Hey, we used $50 from the business account. This was a mistake. I sent $50 from my personal account to reimburse the business. Everything's straight. Make sure everything's documented. It's not like, they're not trying to be, the court is not trying to be nitpicky. What they're looking for is, your LLC creates a wall of protection, like I said, between you and the business. So you and the business are two separate things. But the court's gonna be like, hey, you don't even treat the business like it's separate. This is just another part of yourself. This is just another extension of your personal life. So we're not gonna give you protection. So in the event that you do make a mistake, not the end of the world. You just document that, shoot an email, save it up on your Google Drive in the cloud, and make sure that it's communicated. Nah, this was just a small little mistake. Me and the business are separate. We already rectified that. So that's cool. But the other part of what you were talking about, that's perfectly acceptable. Like, especially like when businesses are first starting up, like it takes a while to get profitable. So you as the business owner, you're going to be contributing your funds, and you're going to be contributing, the money just, to get the business off the ground and keep it sustained and running until it can take care of itself. And so, depending on who your accountant is, that's called a member contribution, or you can form it as a loan, or all sorts of things. So, but that's legit. That's not a problem. But when you're doing that commingling funds, when you going to Miami using the business card, claiming it's a business trip, but it ain't, that's when you're finna have problems. And the reason why it's so heartbreaking to me is because you can do all of that stuff legit. Like, so we talk about protecting the business and protecting the bag. And one of the ways that we protect the bag is by having a tax strategy. And especially, since I come from the real estate investing world, like I'm about to say, if you read the tax code, which I know nobody does, but if you go through the tax code, like number one, the tax law was invented for entrepreneurs and business owners. Like it's all for us. If the tax code is like 5%, like what you have to pay in taxes, and then the other 95% is like loopholes and incentives and different programs for people who are business owners and different ways that you can save money. The tax code is written to encourage you to invest in business, because like from a big picture, like the government, they don't have a product or service. They don't, make money like that. They depend on us to take that risk and create a business that could fail entirely. You could lose everything. You could lose your money. So the government realizes that, so they incentivize you to do it by having all sorts of tax laws for you, and tax breaks and strategies. So when I see people doing it the wrong way, like using business funds like straight up on personal, like it's sad because there's so many legit ways to do it. Like one of the things that I teach my students, I have a business course that we're getting ready to launch, and one of the things I teach my students when it comes to the tax game is I teach them something called the conversion principle. And it's a rule that pretty much says you can convert personal expenses into legitimate business expenses by adding a legitimate business activity. You can convert personal expenses into legitimate business expenses by
Yeah.
adding a
I've heard.
legitimate business
Like, I
activity.
guess, like when you make the whole the trips into business meetings, or
For
like
sure.
I think I've seen somewhere that got like the 6,000 pound vehicle and stuff like that you can write
Yeah,
off
yeah.
that next.
And I mean, and that's the game. And the crazy thing is, especially as real estate investors, like I tell people, hey, if so, I'm in Texas. We're based out of Dallas, and so my family's in Houston. And so one of the things that I have, you have a lot of people, Dallas, Houston, San Antonio, all stuff over Texas. I'm like, yo, if you're about to buy a rental property, if you're okay, buy a rental property back home, someplace that you travel to all the time. Now, every time you go home, you don't have to have any of that money come out of pocket. All those are business write-offs and business deductions. You're going to view the property. You're going to manage the property. You're going to see the tenants.
Hey,
You're going
hold
to do
on,
some
that's
other things. This is the game. And now you are structuring. So one of the things that we teach people to do is write off your life. Structure your business around what you already do in real life, and then start to write off everything, because now it's legit. If I go to Houston to go see my family, and I check on my rental property, and then I meet with the vendor, and I talk with the contractor, all these things, it's not going to take, you're not going to spend your entire trip doing that, but you traveling for those legit business expenses now creates a write-off. You can write off travel. You can write off now you can write off 100% of food with the new tax laws. You can write so many different things. And so what happens is, at the end of the year, you have all this stuff that you've been using your tax strategy in your regular life to write off, and things that you would have spent 5, 10, 20, 30, 50 bands on is now a tax deduction. Now you have your regular income being lowered by you living your regular life. And so that's what's so powerful on the business, on the entrepreneur owner end, is that you can do this legitimately. So, and I'll give one last example, and then we can move on to another question. But my wife and I, we went to Cabo for her birthday a few years back, and we turned that into our business meeting. We had our actual regular annual business meeting. We did a training. We did all sorts of vision casting and things for the business. And so what would have been, what was that, like whatever $1,000 trip, is now a deduction on taxes. We're taking stuff that we would have already done in our personal life, and we're adding that legitimate business activity to it, and we're documenting everything, because everything needs to be on paper. Everything. I tell my clients, you don't want a paper LLC, but you need to leave a paper trail. You need to leave evidence and documentation that you are who you say you are, and your business is doing what you say it's doing. So that's why, at the end of the day, when you're just looking for that peace of mind that I don't want to get sued, that's how you can walk into court if that happens, and you drop your corporate binder on them. Hey, all my stuff is legit. Go through that. You can't come after my assets. You can't come after my house, my investment accounts, my retirement, my nothing, because I'm running my business the right way.
Okay.
So it's so many different ways to get this money the legit way and to protect it. So yeah, I go hard on that. As you can tell, I'm a little bit passionate about that stuff.
Hey, that's how it's supposed to be, though, man. When you passionate what you do, you ain't even got to worry about working in life. And I got a few questions on what you were saying, because now I'm over here taking notes. I do this with every guest. I start taking notes. So in real estate, because this is one thing I want to know. Now I see people who have their real estate business, like they have an LLC for it and stuff like that. Like my mentor out here in Dallas, he has an LLC for real estate stuff. But I also see people that'll do it differently. They'll get like real estate properties, and they'll put each one under a different LLC. Like, what kind of recommendation, I guess, do you have? Like, does it matter? Is it a preferred method to that, or?
That's a good question. And so I have a rule of thumb that I use, and it really depends on what market that you're in. So like in Texas, like, you can find good cash flowing properties, 150, 200, 200,000, even depending on what your strategy is, depending on like what quality of caliber neighborhood of property that you want. So my rule of thumb is you're probably going to want to put about 2 properties in the LLC, or maybe $350 to $300,000 worth of equity. And so the mindset behind that is kind of like we said, your LLC is that barrier of protection in between you and your business. But at the same time, if you have a lot of real estate, you need to start putting barriers of protection in between the different properties. Because when all of your properties are in one LLC, say you have $1 million worth of real estate, you have 5 rental houses, and then one person slips and falls on the stairs in rental house one. If all of your properties are owned in the same LLC, they can sue that LLC and they can come after all of those properties because they're all in the same bucket. So part of the strategy is to make sure that you separate your business from yourself, but you only want to keep so much money, so much equity worth of real estate in each individual LLC so that they can't come after everything because it's separated. So the legal term for that is risk segregation. We want to separate the risk. Everybody can't come after everything because everything isn't in the same bucket. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. No, I'm just glad because I just was trying because I'm in that realm where I'm getting involved in real estate, so I
some
definitely
people like
want
to
to
roll
know.
the dice. They're like, we just put it here. But at the same time, like it's just the setup and just kind of that administrative part to keep up the different LLCs. But I promise, like all my mentors, the people that I look up to in the game is like, hey, I have a dude that I was talking to. He has on camera his tenant. They lied about slipping and falling. They faked it. They fell down. He has them on camera. They went to court, and the court still ruled in favor of the tenant. And so he had his stuff separated, so his money was divided and protected. So you can do as much as you want. You can be the best landlord and real estate owner. Sometimes the game doesn't, the odds aren't in your favor. So we always got to stay protected.
Okay, I'm glad you hit on that. Now I want to take a step back because when people are getting started, we mentioned the paper LLC versus the performing LLC, but I also want to talk about the fact that like just forming a business formation period, like the different documents, things that like you can just kind of go into things that are needed when you're forming an LLC and all of that.
For sure. And so I'm gonna start by saying I'm licensed in Texas. So the clients that I work with set up businesses. I can only set up businesses in Texas for the time being, but they're general principles that apply to everyone. So this stuff will apply to everybody. But depending on what state you're in, it's important to understand that LLCs, they're run by the state. They are a state entity. So if I form my LLC in Texas, I'm paying the state of Texas that fee for the state of Texas to give me business protection. So when I'm doing business in Texas or based out of Texas, the state understands that, hey, Soluto, the person and his business, they're two separate things. So if there's a lawsuit, my personal assets will be protected. But if I take my Texas LLC and I go to New York and I set up shop, don't start a new business entity over there. Don't apply for anything. Don't register anything. I just use my Texas LLC and I start running business and I get sued. The state of New York is gonna be like, hey, we didn't agree to cover you. We didn't agree to give you business protection. You didn't register in New York. Nah, you're on your own. They can come after you personally. So the first thing to understand is that LLCs, they're run by the state. So every time you're doing business or you're setting up like as your base of business in a new state, you either have to take your business and register it in that new state, or you just go ahead and form a new business in that state. So you need to make sure that you're protected in whatever state that you're in. So that's the first thing. So you're going to go to your Secretary of State's office or website now, and you're going to file what's called the Certificate of Formation or Articles of Formation, whatever they call it. You Google Texas Secretary of State LLC formation, and it'll take you to the right spot. So you're going to fill out the form. Different states have different fees. Texas is kind of higher up there. Our LLC formation is $300. California, theirs is $800 to yearly renew it. So different states have different fees, but you'll pay that fee, and then they'll give you that piece of paper, that certificate that will have your LLC name on it. Like I said, the LLC is more than a piece of paper from the state. So once you have that certificate, that's step one. Now there's two main categories of things that you need to maintain a performing LLC and move it from a paper LLC to a performing LLC. So those are your internal documents, and then there's your corporate formalities. Your internal documents and your corporate formalities. So now when we talk about internal documents, the most important one is the operating agreement. Now that's the one a lot of people hear about. You got to have your operating agreement. So the operating agreement is the Bible, the Constitution, the rules and regulations of your business. You need to have an operating agreement to protect yourself, and then on top of that, depending on what state you're in, I'm in Texas. We're in Texas. Texas is has very favorable laws to business owners. The laws on the Texas books, the statutes, they give you a little bit more leeway than other states. So when I'm setting up businesses for our clients, we use those laws to customize their operating agreement to give them additional protection. So now, instead of just being on defense, we can set up their operating agreement to go on offense if the situation ever arises. So now we have a little backup insurance built into the foundation of the business because we know what we're doing, and it's more than just a paper LLC. So the operating agreement, it runs the rules and regulations of your business, tells you everything from how long your business is going to run, if you ever want to dissolve your business, if you have different partners inside of it and somebody wants to sell off their ownership of it, how that process runs, all sorts of stuff. So you have that freedom to customize it and make it work for you. Because what a lot of people will do is either they won't have one, or they'll just find some generic, operating agreement, off of online and just plug it in there. They ain't never read it, they ain't signed it, they have no idea what it says. And if you, the problem is, if you don't customize that thing, if you ever get into trouble during a lawsuit, if something happens, you are stuck by the rules of your operating agreement. And so what a lot of people don't do, they never looked at it or they don't have one. And so I've talked to business owners, they've gotten sued, and they're like, yeah, my operating agreement says that we have to take a distribution out every single month. And so now the person that sues me, they have a subpoena and they've seen my operating agreement, and they won the lawsuit, and my business is structured where I have to take out money every single month and pay myself. So if somebody wins a lawsuit against you and your business says that money has to come out every single month to pay yourself, they are legally entitled to that money every single month until they're paid off. And that's what happens with a lot of people because they just have generic documents. Whereas in Texas, we take advantage of a few different laws where with my clients, if that happens, you ain't never seeing their money because we have 3-4 different barriers of protection before any of that will happen. And so I'm gonna stop there because that's kind of the nerdy legalese stuff. But when you're doing real business and when you've been grinding to build it from nothing and you put in the endless nights, blood, sweat, and tears to make it happen, you can't lose that. Like it's not a game. So we got to make sure that the steps are in place to protect it, especially as we're coming up, because that's when we're going to have the most time to set it up. And then when our business gets grown, is growing and it's achieving and successful, that's when it's going to be the most vulnerable. So I harp on that a lot. You got to set that thing up right because that whole thing can fall apart.
And so you take care of this for your clients and stuff like that?
Yeah. So we do all of this when we do business setup for our clients. So, and I'll run through the rest of the internal documents. I'm not trying to bore nobody, but that operating agreement is key. But we have a core 4 documents. We have our operating agreements, different resolutions and consents that we have. And especially now, with COVID and the pandemic, a lot of, even with banks and getting your banking set up, a lot of banks are requiring documentation that you as an individual are authorized to enter into a financial relationship with that institution on behalf of your business. So it's really just, like I say, leaving that paper trail. Like you need to keep documentation and records so that way you can have peace of mind and you can chill and you can rest knowing that I'm good. But yeah, a lot of people sleep on that. So those internal documents are key.
Okay, now this is a question I've talked about with some of my boys because I really don't know. Like I've heard of, okay, so you got DBAs, so like you're doing business as for those that don't.
That's good.
I'll try to figure out how to word this. I guess is it worth it doing DBAs? Because I know people that have like my boy, he had a company where he used to do like e-commerce. And originally we were going to partner up to do like Turo and buy cars under the LLC, but we was like, well, because that's an e-commerce thing, should we do a DBA to make it separate? Like
that's a real good question, and that's something we talk about a lot. So I like to think about DBAs as marketing and strategy. So what a DBA is, for people who don't know, it means doing business as, is just like a trade name for your business. So if my business is Soluto Uba LLC, that's not sexy. That's not marketable. You're going to come up with, whatever your branding is to present to the world. But on the back end, on the paperwork, it'll be whatever your formal LLC name is. So that's why you set up a DBA, so you can have like a marketable name to do business as. But what a lot of people don't understand is a DBA is just that. It's the name, because technically under the law, you can't market your business. You can't use a business name. You can't use a trade name if you haven't registered it with the state. You got to register that DBA. So all it is just that business name. So what people don't understand is that the DBA doesn't give you any protection. The DBA is not an LLC. It's no type of tax protection. It's nothing. It's just a business name that goes over what you already have. So if you're the analogy I like to use is it's a glove. So it's a glove that goes over your hand. If the hand is an LLC and you put the DBA, then the DBA goes over the LLC. It now has all the protections and the powers of an LLC. If you're a sole proprietor and you register a DBA, the DBA goes over the sole proprietor. You don't get any extra protection. It just goes over what you already have. And so that's what DBA is there. But when it comes to that strategy, like you're talking about, I have people who are like, hey, I have this successful business over here. I'm thinking of like doing Turo or adding real estate investing or starting to do like crypto or stocks or whatever. Should I put it in that same entity and then just throw a DBA on it? And so my answer is kind of like we talked about with the rental houses. LLCs are great, but you want to separate your risk. You don't want everything in the same basket because, like, once again, if somebody gets into an accident and they try to sue you on the Turo side and the whole e-commerce business is under the same basket, all of that money is vulnerable now. So what I like to do is, my rule of thumb is, if you have complementary businesses, you can have it, them in the same LLC, and then you just put a DBA. So like, for example, maybe you own a restaurant and then you want to start a wine shop. Those are complementary businesses, things in the same idea. So you can have them under the same LLC, and then you have the wine shop be with a DBA, you have the restaurant be with the DBA, or something like that. If they complement each other, if it's not going to be a major risk under the same DBA. But if you have different types of businesses, separate those things. Because I'm telling you, like, the most random stuff will happen, and you want to make sure, especially that, like, whatever your golden goose is, that cash cow, the thing that's really generating that income, that needs to be on its own island, locked, bolted, separated, protected from everything else.
I'm glad you hit on that there, because that gave me some clarity I wasn't aware of. There.
Yeah, no, that's real. A lot of people are falling for that because, I mean, it's high key. People just don't feel like, oh man, I want to set up another LLC. I mean, I get it. Like, it's the fees and the admin, and you gotta run that stuff every day. But this is part of the cost to be the boss. Like, and this is why I encourage my clients, just from a business standpoint, make sure you're good on your numbers, make sure you're good on your prices, make sure that you're charging your worth, so that you have that cushion to do that admin stuff that you might not necessarily feel like, but is necessary.
Okay. Damn. I'm glad. I'm sitting here thinking,
man.
I mean, changed up a whole bunch. I was about to do, actually. So I'm glad you hit on that.
For sure.
This is a question I got because I've run into a couple of my friends. I even had this thing come for like, I've thought about this and I've talked to people that talk about this.
Yeah.
When most people I know set up their LLCs through LegalZoom. I have people that, after talking to multiple people, nobody's a fan. I did it even myself. I guess when you're on
clients too.
I mean, when you're on LegalZoom, they have you go through this whole process, right? You tell them what your intentions, what your business are, things of that nature.
Yeah.
Let's say you come out with a business, you thinking you're gonna do this, but you want to switch it up. Is that even possible to switch up what your business is gonna do, or is it just like, okay, I got to get rid of this, start something else completely? Like, how does that work?
Yeah, I mean, that's why I like, before when I was first starting out, I was like, why y'all using all these websites and this and do it, the wrong way? Now I'm not even tripping, because those be the best clients. Because on the back end, when something's screwed up or they got to fix something, or whatever, like, we started a whole service at our law firm called LLC Rehabs, because we got to rehab a whole bunch of businesses that weren't set up the right way, or set up in a way that's kind of restrictive. So, for example, like with the LegalZoom thing, like, what a lot of people don't understand is that LegalZoom is not an attorney. Like, when you look at the actual website, LegalZoom is a document preparation company. So it's really like what you said. They ask you questions. Do you want this and this and this and this? And then they just do what you say. But like, as a business owner, like, even having a dynamic conversation right now, like, I'll hear something that you're saying And it's like, oh, you look like y'all about to go down this road. Well, you need to consider this and this and this and this, because you're talking with the real person that can understand what you're doing and can ask you specific questions about your business needs. LegalZoom is just going to put in what you tell it. And so what'll happen sometimes is people are like, hey, I want to do a real estate business, and our business is going to be focused on, wholesaling and flipping. And then a year and a half later, they're like, hey, I'm actually better at doing this Turo thing. I've been building up my fleet. We're, 10, 15 cars now. But what they don't know is the internal documents that they've created in their business now state a specific thing. So you're taking your business that was set up for real estate and you're operating Turo from it. And, God forbid, somebody gets to accident and they sue you. Then they see your legal documents. They're like, wait, on their operating agreement, it says their business is set up to do real estate. You're operating a Turo business. This ain't legit. And then that's going to be their end at the court to get your LLC status revoked and come after you personally, come after your personal status. And a lot of business owners don't even know about it because they weren't thinking about it. So this type of stuff that we see every day. And, I get it, because it's real easy to, especially when you're first getting started, like you want to do the foundations, but people are trying to hit the road and get to making money. So I understand that. But, I tell folks, as you start to matriculate, as the business starts to grow, as you start to see success, this is the foundation, because this is the type of stuff like it happens every day, and that'll cut the legs out from under you. So that's why, I don't hate on LegalZoom. I just tell people, if you need an expert, if you see your business growing, if this is just kind of more than a little side hustle on the side, if this is something that you're going to use to establish generational wealth, that your kids are going to look at, oh, granddad did this, and then from that point the family was established and we went in a whole different direction, then you got to set the roots to that right. The foundation has to be legit. Otherwise, all sorts of stuff can happen.
Well, damn. All right, then. I'll sit here low key evaluating everything I done tried to put together.
Nah, man. I mean, it is real, because I did the same thing starting up, because it's that tension between, like, when you just getting started, it's like, hey, I need to focus my energy on doing what's going to create revenue and create money and start this business. But I tell folks, especially, growth happens quickly. Like even last year, I've had so many of my clients during the pandemic, their businesses exploded. Like that stuff went all the way up. And so they were unprepared for the amount of quick success that they were experiencing. And so all sorts of like foundational problems came from that. So that's why we kind of retune, recalibrate. Mm-hmm. And even now, like we're going to launch services where we're going to start having like monthly, almost subscription type based services where we're evaluating businesses' needs, and we're taking care of this and this and this and this and making sure that you're on point. Because a lot of us, especially in the community now, being entrepreneurial minded and having that vision and having that abundance mindset and realizing that we can all go out there and get it and succeed. That's really starting to take root in us. Like right now, like shout out to the previous generation that laid that foundation, but like we're taking the baton and we're running with it. So we need to make sure that this foundation is set up legit and that it's something that I can smooth hand off to my son with no qualms, with no qualifications, with no concerns. So that's part of it. And we ain't even talk about the branding and trademark stuff.
Well, I was about to lead into that because that's one thing, we've talked about all like getting the LLC and everything, getting your business formed and starting it up. But more so now I was just trying to talk about like protecting the brand and stuff like that. Because I hear trademarking, you hear copywriting and all this. Well, first of all, can you break down like, because I know it's a difference between them. Can you break down like what the difference is between trademarking and copywriting?
For sure. And this is mine. I heard this from somebody else and I just stole it. But copyright is for content and trademark is for branding. Copyright is for content, trademark is for branding. So what that means is your copyright is your right to make a copy of whatever content you produce. So if I write a book, you can't take my book and then retype it and sell it. Only I have the right to copy it, to reproduce it. So that copyright applies to a book, a song, a play, a curriculum, a course, all sorts of things. But we think about it in terms of content that gets produced, even viral social media posts. Like people are now starting to leverage their copyright rights and make sure other people can't rip off their content and try to take money outside of the rules of whatever platform that you're on. So that's copyright. Trademark, on the other hand, protects branding. So trademark is your business name or the logo or slogan. And so the example that I like to use is a trademark is what it is. It's a source identifier. It quickly lets you know who the source of the product is. So if you're at the mall and you come across a shirt and it says Nike, automatically you know a lot of things about that shirt. You know probably how much it costs. You know the quality of the material. You know what type of athletes or celebrities endorse that product. It's a source identifier. It's going to tell you about it. Or if you're looking at a pair of shoes, you see the swoosh. Boom. Automatically, you know how much this is going to cost. You know the quality of, a whole bunch of things about it. Somebody says, just do it. You see a t-shirt that says, just do it. You know what it is. That's a trademark. That company has created their brand and they've invested money and time, and now just off rip, you know exactly what that is. And so that's why they don't play with that infringement. When the other companies try to come and try to rip it off or try to do something that's similar to it, they hit them with that cease and desist, and they shut that down because they spent billions of dollars now pouring into that brand so that everybody knows what company is behind this when you see the slogan or name or whatever it is. And so that's what the trademark is. Your trademark protects branding and the copyright protects content.
I'm glad you broke that down because heck, it even happened to me when one of my I used to do something way back when I first started where I would do artist of the show. Basically, I'd have a black artist on, and I put their songs on after, and I started I think one time I did an old school Drake song, and man, a month later, I get this email talking about they took my whole episode down, so I had to go through and take everything off, and I just really eliminated that whole segment period from my show, just because you don't even want to deal with that headache at all. It's not even worth it. And that's when I found out about the free stuff. Yeah, and I found about the free beats and stuff like that you can go grab and do things of that nature. So I'm just glad that I was able to get that hit on real quick because a lot of people don't understand, the importance of that. I guess also this is my question, right? You start a brand, a lot of people don't have a lot of money, when they get started, things of that nature. When is the right time, I guess, to trademark your stuff?
For sure. Yeah, and what that's the tension right there, because it's we're talking about even with the LLCs, when you're first getting off the ground, you gotta grind, you gotta make money. And so what I say is the best time to trademark is yesterday. But obviously you gotta weigh that decision and see if you're in a position to do it. But the reason why I said the best time to trademark is yesterday is because the trademark is a federal process. You register with the federal government. And if anybody knows the federal government, they ain't the fastest. It takes a long time. So before COVID, it was about 6 to 12 month process. Now during COVID, it's a 12 to 18 month process. It's just slow.
I didn't even know it's that long. Dang.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's the feds, and then everybody's working remote. Everything is just slowed down. So it is what it is. So that there's really nothing we can do about that. But I mean, you do have some inherent rights when you start producing something. So with a copyright or a trademark, if I write a book, it's just on my Google Doc right now. If I write it, I have the rights to that. If a year later somebody finds that content and they start selling it, I have the rights to it regardless. Now you still have those rights, but you can't sue. You can't do anything about it. So you have the seed, but you can't really do nothing about it without that federally registered copyright or without that registered trademark. So the day that you start using a business name or a slogan or a logo or whatever, you have that right internally. But if somebody's taking your stuff and they're ripping it off and they're copycatting it, you can't sue them. You can't do anything about it. So a trademark is the way that you actually own your brand. That's the only way you can actually own it and have enforceable rights. But if even if you can't trademark it until a year later, when you finally do start to do that trademark application, you can still reference back, hey, we've been using it for a full year. So somebody can't just kind of hop in line after you start the process of applying for the trademark. They can't get in front of you. So you have a little bit of rights, but I always tell folks as soon as possible, as soon as you know that, hey, this is a legit idea. I mean, because just let's be real, like
Yeah.
there's nothing new under the sun. Like there are very few rare, like, oh, this is a crazy idea, this is a crazy business thing, this is crazy whatever. So if you do get the inspiration and you catch it, boy, you better protect yourself because other people are looking. And like even for example, one of my colleagues, he's protecting. He's an attorney for this young black woman who has a skincare business, and I don't know if you heard about it, but Kim Kardashian, she was looking to start a brand called Skin, and kind of using her brand and using her her whole machine. And so she filed for the trademark, but this other young lady had it before. So because she had this trademark registration and because she did it legally, she was able to stop Kim K's lawyers, and they hit them with that cease and desist, and they're gonna block that whole thing now. Imagine if she didn't have any of that. One of these big shot companies, brands, celebrities, they got the money, they got the team. They're just gonna steamroll you. You can't do nothing about it. But just taking the steps to protect yourself and to set that up legit makes a world of difference. So yeah.
And so I guess you kind of just out of luck if you, like, let's say, been operating, not the legit way, but let's say 10 years, and somebody come through and they're like, "Oh, I want the same name," and they go do the trademark. Sure. So you just gotta whole thing just gets shut down.
That's a wrap. Man. And to be real, like, especially in our community, like people see the creativity, like they see the ideas, like they see how everything is viral and it'll be popular, it's catching on in the culture. And so they see us giving away for free. They're out there, they're scouting, they're doing whatever. Oh, I'm gonna take that, I'm gonna take that, I'm gonna take that, and trademark it, and now they own it. And so even though you have that right whenever you start the idea for trademark, you have to at least have that application in the door. Once your application is in the door, that's what gets you on paper. So even if you were doing something before, if somebody sees what you're doing and they go to trademark it first and they get their application in the door first, it's extremely difficult to stop that, and it's going to cost a lot of money just to get your idea back, and that's why most people won't do it. So getting that foot in the door, applying for the trademark first is so powerful, and we always highly encourage people as soon as you can.
Yeah. If anything, you'd have just put a whole masterclass on right now, my brother. I want to say, first off, man, I appreciate you before I get to this last segment, though.
Sir.
Just thank you for coming through, man. Thank you for reaching out. Again, I just hit on this. Get in the room, people. Like, it's really, we make it so hard. And I get it. Sometimes people don't want to be out and expose themselves, and they nervous.
Yeah.
I was one of the people. So I just say to say, just get in the room, man. And from there, you'll never know what can happen. Like, you ain't got to talk to everybody. You ain't got to know everybody. I walk into these rooms most times, and I don't know nobody at all. And I'm lucky enough. I've been to a few. Now that I've got to Dallas and I'm moved back to Texas, I get into these, like, I go to these networking events now. And I'll start a podcast. So a lot of these people I'll see there, they previous guests I never got to actually meet in person. We just met, virtually. So now I get to meet these people in person. And so there you get to build like a community, and eventually you'll get, just naturally get inducted into that community just off the strength of you always showing up and everything. Sure. And then they start pouring into you, you can pour into them. And, like right here, this situation that we're doing right here with this podcast, he's coming on giving y'all a lot of game. I give him a platform to do it. So while he gets exposure, I get knowledge. Whoever tunes in gets knowledge. So I'm going to just go ahead and pivot to this last segment. I do a talk to the culture segment with everybody. I run off 5 questions. Just answer to the best of your abilities, my brother, and we can go and wrap this thing up. Now, first question, what does wealth look like to you?
Wealth looks like time freedom. Like, I mean, high key, my favorite part of being an entrepreneur is when my son's school called me and said he was sick and I need to come get him. And I could drop whatever I was doing and go get him. I could never do that before. I have the time freedom. Like, that's wealth.
Also, next question will be a book recommendation, but it cannot be Rich Dad Poor Dad, because everybody say that, and I'm just killing it.
I would say The Compound Effect by I forgot the dude's name. Google The Compound Effect, and what's really dope about that book is, like, everybody wants to, like, do something big and grand and have, like, big grand change, but big change doesn't come from it doesn't come from a big moment. It comes from small, repeated small steps, and you just gradually grow in 1%. and then a year later, you see how far you've come across. So the compound effect, I think it's Tom Hardy, maybe the compound effect. Just Google it. It's
Crazy.
a powerful book.
That sounds like a book
Small
I'm
change
actually
has
similar to
such
a
a
book
big
I'm reading
impact.
now. Yeah, that sounds similar to a book I'm reading now called Atomic Habits.
Yeah, Atomic. I was about to get into that too, Jason. He said, "You don't rise to the level of your dreams. You fall to the floor of your discipline, or something like that."
Yeah.
I seen that quote. I saw that quote from somebody. I was like, "Yo, I got to read that book." Yeah, that's
And
good.
we do this for our culture, man. So I always ask, what's one thing you think the Black community needs to improve
So if you follow me on social media, like one of the campaigns that we're starting is called "Ownership is the New Black," and so I think in our community we're good at being vocal, we're good at having a presence, we're good at spending money. We're one of the highest consumer communities, but we're not good at owning things. And so the reality of the situation is, for a lot of the issues that have been going on in the community, if you don't own stuff, you don't have a stake in it. If you don't have a stake in it, your voice only means so much. So we need to start owning and pulling resources. So when things happen in our communities that we don't like, other groups will have a financial disincentive to not do that. Because, like it or not, money makes the world go round. And if you don't control streams of commerce, if you don't control anybody's economy, all you can kind of do is try to network and to finesse the situation and kind of co-opt your way into a situation, but you don't really have any structural power. So ownership, I'm really big on ownership. We talk about real estate, obviously, owning businesses the right way. I'm just now starting to get more into stocks and investments on top of that, and then also owning our intellectual property. So those are the four pillars: ownership, ownership, ownership.
Next question. What's next for you, man? What's next? What you got? What's coming next for you?
Yeah, man. So we got a couple of things that we're doing. Once again, we're still growing the law firm, setting up businesses, making sure people are protected, having that performing LLC and not the paper LLC, and then also with the intellectual property, doing trademark work, making sure people are owning their brand and owning their ideas. But we've got a couple of things coming up. We're launching a membership service for CEOs, for business owners that are kind of in that next step, and you need regular legal support so you don't have to Google stuff and wonder if you're taking the right step. So we want to give you peace of mind, because as a CEO, you're already killing it in whatever industry you're in. We just want you to be able to focus on that. And we're going to take off the majority of the legal burden so you don't have to worry about that. So we have a whole bunch of services that we're going to perform for our different CEOs on a monthly, regular basis, and just be able to support them and let their businesses launch, because they don't have to worry about stuff that they don't have expertise in. So that's one area that's going to be launching soon. I'm going to be talking about that more. But then another area is we have a course that's going to be dropping in a couple of weeks now. I need to get with my team. It's called the Business Blueprint Accelerator. And so pretty much all the stuff that we talked on, it's going to be a 5-day accelerator course to take somebody from don't know nothing to a confident business owner. So there's 5 pillars that we talk about. Is the fundamentals, business fundamentals, general partnerships. What's the LLC? What's the sole prop? What's the DBA? What's a S corp? We didn't even talk about S corporations, bro. That's my favorite strategy. What's the S corp? What's the C corp? So the business structures, we talk about that. We talk about everything LLC, because that's what 90 plus % of business owners have. Everything LLC, how you make sure that your business is set up legit to actually protect you and not fall apart. Then we talk about protecting the bag, tax savings. It's so powerful what we can do as entrepreneurs. I have clients that are saving 5 figures, and just with strategies, they can do that every single year, and they're going to save more as their business gets more successful and they make more money. So we teach people how to save crazy money just by using tax strategy. Then we teach people how to actually protect that brand. We teach people how to trademark yourself if you want to do the DIY route. We teach you how to actually, make sure that your actual brand, you have ownership of it. And then lastly, we talk about how to go from just a business owner to a CEO. Because a lot of us right now, even me, myself, we're trying to transition. But a lot of us need to move down that CEO spectrum and stop working in our business so much, so we can start working on our business. We can make those big picture moves and those connections and those collaborations that'll take us to the next stage. So those are the 5 pillars of the Business Blueprint Accelerator. Those are all taught by myself. And so we're taking on students and we're walking them through the whole process. And that course is an investment. That costs $34.97 right now. And the reason why we priced it at that is, number one, the free game that people are getting. It's not free; you're gonna pay for it. But the level of game that people are getting. But also, I heard Eugene say on a previous podcast,
Yep.
if you're not invested, people who pay attention, and people who pay more attention. We're getting to a point in our business where the level that we need to get to, free or cheap, ain't gonna cut it. Like the type of generational wealth that we're trying to produce, like we're going to need to pour into it. You can't have a 6-figure business and not pour in 5 figures. You can't have a 7-figure business and not pour in 6 figures. So it took me a while to be comfortable even saying this, like when it comes to prices and money like that. But just with my mentors and my coaches, these are the steps that successful people have to take and invest in themselves to realize that, hey, I can't go back to that old way of life because it's not going to create the results that I'm looking for. It's not going to create that legacy and that empire that I'm trying to build. So yeah, sorry about that. I got a little passionate.
That's all good. Hey, that's what this for.
Yeah, but yeah, those are the two main things that we're doing, and then of course the law firm running, taking care of stuff, and even on the real estate side, we're probably going to set up our first Airbnb probably by Q4 this year. So man, blessed. I'm a blessed man, good family, good wife. I just thank God for it, and just the ability that I'm able to hustle and impact people and grind and just share this knowledge. So that's what we got. Thank you so much. Salute to you, Ollie. Just even the podcast is such a great platform just to share ideas and to connect with people. It's like you said, like you never know. Like just networking and getting out and making connections and relationships is so powerful. And your platform right here is doing that for a lot of people. So salute to you.
I appreciate you, brother. Appreciate the love. And I just want to say something, shout out my boy Gene, because I did just have him on the podcast recently. My boy Gene Marshall. That is a never a truer statement, man. People that pay attention. And I learned, like I've been doing, like I used to think, just take from somebody like myself, regular person, man. I used to just think that the courses were scams, just like whoever you probably listen to this deep thinking that. And it's not till I started taking them, some ain't gonna be good. Some gonna be trash. And that's just come with the territory. But I'll tell you this. When you start paying for these courses, you start getting the value out of them. You're going to get more value 9 times out of 10 than you pay. And I'm in this thing called the Morning Meetup, Dave Shands. And he talks about this often. Yeah. But it's kind of a disservice sometimes to price something super cheap to somebody because you need them to understand, like, this is a true investment in yourself. So you're going to need to pay a lot of money. But also you have to understand the return you're going to get on that. Also, a lot of people have problems for y'all out there that have courses and offering services. Y'all have problems offering high ticket because you never paid that. And when he said that was like a very true thing. Like I didn't think about it until he said, and I was just like, man. And it was not until I started paying you pay 4 figures or something for the first time. It's like, okay, well, I don't feel bad, charging somebody that much for my time. So just take that into consideration, man, when y'all out here doing whatever you want to do to make money, because you ain't got to do the course, right? You ain't got to do all that. Whatever you choose to do, just be mindful of that. But also,
I just want to emphasize what you said one more time, bro. Like, my coach, she told me the same thing. Like, last year during the pandemic, I dropped more than $20K on programs and training. And she said exactly what you said. You feel so uncomfortable charging high ticket because you've never paid high ticket yourself. You've never had to invest in yourself and figure out for real, like this is how you grow. But like now that I've done it, now that I've got receipts and my clients got receipts, it's like half of it, it's more for the person because like you said, it's a level like I've given away some of the stuff that I charge like my clients for. I've given it to like family members and they don't do nothing with it. It's this is cool. It's not gonna, they're not gonna do nothing with it. But the clients that pay for it, when I see the growth, when I see the success that they're having, it's because you had to put skin in the game. Just like with real estate, you have to put skin in the game.
Yes, sir. And do one last thing, man. Tell everybody where they can find you at. All your social media, all that.
For sure. Yeah, thank you. Once again, my name is Soluto Uba, but I go by the Entrepreneur Lawyer. So you can find me, reverse. You can find me the Entrepreneur Lawyer on everything. So Instagram, the Entrepreneur Lawyer, YouTube, Entrepreneur Lawyer, Facebook, Entrepreneur Lawyer, Twitter. And so, yeah, so if you search the Entrepreneur Lawyer, you're probably going to find me. You're going to find some of my content. We do weekly videos on Mondays and Tuesdays. Mondays mean business is our Monday business strategy, and then we have Tax Tip Tuesdays where we give you tax strategy as well for business owners. And then just go through my social media. We have lots of educational content where you can engage for free and start to take these principles and these gems and apply them immediately in your business, so you make sure that you're protected. But yeah, if you're looking for me, website is the Uba Law Group. So feel free to DM, email, however you want to find me. I'm more than happy to help.
Yes, sir. We'll have all that information in the show notes per usual. Once again, I want to thank you, my brother, for coming through. Thank you for dropping the gems, man. It's much appreciated. And you still got a lot, so we probably gonna try to get you back on soon enough after I get through all these people I got. But I just want to thank you, man, because again, like I always tell everybody, come on here, man. Y'all don't have to do this. And, I appreciate y'all giving me y'all's time, man, and providing some value for the people that tune in every week. And so, like we always say on this platform, man, we're good at success. If everybody around you is still struggling, each one reach one, each one teach one, man. And we are out.
Peace.